I see little kids now in stores, and they're in strollers, and they've got their own little kid's tablet. Okay? Yeah. What are you training them to do? You're training them when they're bored to go to a screen.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Train them to be in the real world from the beginning. Set limits right away.
Welcome to the Focus on the Family broadcast, helping you and your family thrive in Christ.
John, technology is more and more relevant to all of us all the time, and it's an issue. It may be the number one parenting issue that we get asked about here at Focus on the Family, right?
Probably. I mean, there are several things, but that's got to be at the top because it's everywhere.
Well, I know for Gene and I, it was the case. I mean, we delayed that smartphone until I think Trent was 17 and Troy was 15. I thought we did pretty good. But they would ask us, when do we get a phone? Well, let me talk to Mom about that. And then we just didn't respond. It was a good strategy. Today, I know many parents are struggling with this, so we're going to cover this issue with a wonderful guest. And he has spent much of his time, his adult life, in the media business. And he comes with a really insightful perspective. So if you want to help yourself or your children navigate this crazy world of technology and honor God with your time, we have some great insights for you today.
Yeah, David Murrow is a best-selling author and is passionate about helping everyone overcome screen addiction. And we're going to talk about some of the content in his very in-depth book. There's so much here. The book is called Drowning in Screen Time, a lifeline for adults, parents, teachers, and ministers who want to reclaim their real lives. Stop by the website for more details about David and that book.
David, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. You mentioned in the book, which was really good, I identified with this, how much time your family, I'm assuming late 60s, 70s, maybe I'm wrong, spent in front of the screen. And we're kind of that way too. I was kind of raised by television. But thankfully, those shows were pretty good back then. Mayberry RFD, The Brady Bunch.
Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island. That one was frustrating to me as a child. It's like, look down. You can get off the island. Just look down. They always miss the clue.
Right.
It bugged me to death, I'm telling you, even as a 9-year-old. But explain that experience that you had.
Yeah, we grew up in a family where if we were awake, the TV was on. We started the day with the Today Show, and we ended with the Tonight Show. So screens were an ever-present factor in our family, and I hated that growing up. Became a Christian at 15. Part of my faith walk was I'm going to divorce myself from this example of being obsessed with screens. Well, then came the internet, and I got a portable computer and Wi-Fi. And pretty soon in the mid-2000s, I was on that thing as much as my dad had been on the television.
Yeah.
So my family actually had to have an intervention with me because I was so obsessed with screen time. And what's ironic is I work in the screen business. I've been a television producer for 4 decades.
Yeah.
I know the tricks that people like me play. I'm in the screen addiction business. And yet I still fell victim to it. I still got under the spell of these devices. And it was robbing me of my time with my children.
Yeah.
And with my wife, and I had to take some very serious steps to pull back.
Let me ask you about that. I think that was occasionally a point of conversation with my boys and I, because some ways parents who grew up on TV would justify being able to watch news, weather, and sports. It's just information. I'm getting updated. And my boys would sometimes say, well, you're watching TV as much as I'm on the screen. So you think of that comparison. How would you coach us as parents not to differentiate maybe? It's both screen time. It's both taking you away from other things you could do.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't realize how much of your real life you are displacing when you spend time on your screens. And the first piece of advice I give to parents is get your own act together first. I mean, if you're the type who's always got the TV on, or the moment you sit down, you're grabbing your phone and scrolling this and scrolling that, kids are going to do what they see you doing rather than what you say. So Step one is get your own screen life under control. And then you would be in a much better position to explain to your kids that, hey, you're missing out on life because you're absorbed in Snapchat all the time.
Jean my wife did a really bold thing. Probably for 10, 12 years. I can't remember the amount of time. But she noticed when the kids were really young that they were watching, good cartoons. We would try to screen the bad stuff off, obviously. But, just even good, pleasant cartoons. But the amount of time really bugged her. So we just cut it off. We got rid of the cable and, and we did that for a long time, which really soured my football watching. But you have to make some sacrifices, right? And I think our boys grew up with wonderful imaginations and problem-solving ability that maybe they wouldn't have developed.
Yeah, it's displacement. If you're just absorbed in a screen all the time, you're not developing the real world skills that are going to make you successful as a man or a woman. You have to spend time with people. You've got to, hoping to get married someday, you've got to learn how to deal with the opposite sex. And if you're absorbed in your screens all the time, those serendipitous interactions don't happen.
The addiction that you had, I mean, I would think you would call it that, the screen time addiction.
Or an obsession.
You said your family had an interdiction with you.
Yeah.
How did that go, and what did you walk away with after that environment, that question that they asked you?
I was ashamed, and I couldn't believe I'd fallen into my own trap, hung on my own gallows, as it were. So I just had to take some very serious and deliberate steps to pull back on my screen time. The minute my kids came into the room, I shut my laptop. That was one of the things I did. This is in 2005. This was, Wi-Fi was a brand new thing. There was no Facebook yet.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, I've never been a big one over watching TV, but I do know a lot of people who, have learned to shut the TV off unless they're going to watch a specific show. That's one of the big pieces of advice I give people is don't just have the TV on as background noise. Learn to interact. Families need to have these casual interactions all the time. Mm-hmm. And if we're all absorbed in our screens, we don't have those.
Yep.
And so the only thing we do as parents is nag our kids. We take the screen away or we say, hey, why haven't you got your homework done? We're preempting those healthy interactions that make a family healthy.
Yeah. You have 4 parables in the book that you point to. One is the fishbowl. I want to kind of tap that one because it's really powerful. So how does the fishbowl analogy work with screen time?
I wish I had my fishbowl in front of me for the video audience. But picture a fishbowl in front of you filled with ping pong balls. Uh-huh. The fishbowl represents your brain. The ping pong balls represent all the things that you have to think about and do during the day. But even when the fishbowl is full, there's still little bits of airspace around the balls. That's the time our brains use to reset, to meditate, to pray. Remember that? When we used to pray?
That's downtime.
That's downtime. Mm-hmm. Our brains need that to heal. When we started carrying these devices around with us all the time, we began filling that downtime with screen time. Quick game of Candy Crush, quick check your social media, quick check of the news, right? So our brains never rest. And all this anxiety and depression, it's not necessarily because of the content that we're consuming. It's because our brains have never rested and we're on high alert all the time. Our brains are like any other muscle. If you went on a walk and you walked continually for 9 hours, you'd be exhausted. Our brains need time to rest as well. And if people spend 9 hours a day on their screens, their brains are getting exhausted. And we need time to think, to meditate, to pray, and just daydream. And we don't do that anymore.
When you look at the amount of time the average person, are you the average person, John?
I doubt it.
You look at the average consumption of screen time. I think the number is something like 9 hours a day.
You are correct.
So that space you're talking about where the water fills up. I mean, you use that illustration of filling the bowl with water, right?
Yeah.
The fish bowl. And but that represents about 9 hours out of our day.
Yeah.
That is a huge amount of time.
It's pretty much, especially with young adults, if they are awake and they're not doing something else, like in the shower or driving a car, they're on their screens. So we're just not allowing God to speak to us. Or, I remember, I'd stand in line at the grocery store in the old days and I would pray for somebody, or I would, try to help somebody who was struggling with their cart or something like that. How can you do that if you're just looking at your screen? You can't love your neighbor if you can't see your neighbor.
The difference between passive and interactive media use, describe that for us, because we probably don't think about it, especially if we're not in the business.
Yeah. So all media was passive until 1972. You sat down in front of a screen and you either watched a movie or you watched a television show, but you didn't change what happened on the screen.
It's not interactive.
You don't interact with it.
Yeah.
Okay. In 1972, they invented something called Pong, the world's first video game.
Did you play that?
Absolutely,
okay, good.
yes.
Boy, that seems really slow now when you go back and play it.
Yeah, and then came the Nintendo Entertainment System and Super Mario and Space Invaders. But we began interacting with our TVs for the first time. And then personal computers came. And then came these things. And we manipulate what happens on this screen 6, 7, 8 hours a day. Now, passive media is like going to a museum and looking at the paintings. Interactive media is like painting something yourself. It's much more taxing to the brain. So I tell parents, you can give your kids some a couple of hours of good, wholesome television, and you're not going to rev up their brains as much as if you give them 2 hours of gaming or 2 hours of scrolling or 2 hours of internet. Because what you've done is you have caused their brains to hyper-arouse, hyperactivate. And that is much more injurious, much more addicting than just watching Gilligan's Island or some TV
Something
show.
passive.
Something passive.
The long-term effect of that, have you looked at the brain science on that to see what damage is done, actually?
Children have very neuroplastic brains. Their brains are forming. And so if you give them a lot of screen time as a kid, especially interactive screen time, you'll see lower test scores. You'll see higher levels of ADHD, hyperactivity, because what we've done is we've trained their brains to be stimulated all the time. So downtime feels weird. If they're not being stimulated all the time, it's like something's wrong. So they will find out, they'll act out. They'll find things to rev their brain up.
To get that dopamine.
To get that dopamine.
Huh.
And so they become disciplinary problems in school, and all these things manifest themselves because calm seems abnormal.
Yeah.
Whereas calm has been normal for thousands of years. And we've flipped that on its head.
So that overstimulation is really causing great damage. How does a parent, recognize that? And then, I mean, we did it too. You had the iPad or whatever you might have, and you put it on something good. I'm not saying something bad, but you put something good on there and you hand it to Junior while you can get some things done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How many of you seen Lord of the Rings?
Yep, we've seen it.
Okay. Yeah, Frodo had a magic ring. I'm holding a ring up right now.
Yeah.
When you put the ring on your finger, what happens?
You become invisible.
You become invisible. Parents, you have a golden ring called a screen. And if you need your kids to be invisible for a few minutes, you hand them an iPad. You hand them a phone. And they become invisible. All their crying stops, all their fighting stops. But what else happens when you put the ring on? Remember Gollum wore the ring all the time? You get twisted. Your values, you get the world's values and not Christ's values. And here's the other thing. When you put the ring on, you become visible to Sauron, the evil lord who knows where you are. When you give your kids that magic ring of power, that device, you are making them visible to advertisers who want their money, influencers who want their opinions, and predators who want their body. So you are opening up doors to all sorts of evil.
That is a really powerful illustration. Wow. David Murrow is our guest today on Focus on the Family. Your host is Jim Daly, and we're talking about, obviously, screens. And David's book is so good on this. He's got so much content in here. It's called Drowning in Screen Time, a lifeline for adults, parents, teachers, and ministers who want to reclaim their real lives. And we'll encourage you to stop by the show notes to get your copy or give us a call, 800, the letter A in the word family.